Hi, what's up, YouTube? Today we visit the website The Huffington Post, where an author, Tracy McMillan, wrote an article titled Why You're Not Married, where she goes over 6 basic reasons that she believes women aren't being married today. Okay, let's begin. The article starts off with a little epiphany phase saying, so you want to get married. It takes a while to admit it. Saying it out loud, even in your mind, it feels kind of desperate, kind of unfeminist, and kind of definitely not you, or at least not any you that you recognize, right? So she's getting into the fact that for women in their lives, they're gonna come to a point where they realize that they want to get married, and they start to wonder, well, why aren't I married, right? And according to Tracy, she knows why, and she's going to tell the ladies, and she's gonna be brutally honest, and she won't lie. She says the problem is not men, the problem is you. And sure, there are lame men out there, but they're not really standing in your way. And because of that fact, if whatever you're doing right now is going to get you married, you would have already had a ring on your finger, right? So, with the first reason being, quote unquote, you're a bitch. And she's not basically saying you are a bitch. What she means by that is that you're angry, right? And a lot of the times, the ladies won't realize that they're angry. The woman will think that they're super smart, right? They've been to therapy, they're setting boundaries, they're independent. But the truth is, in some way, shape, or form, underlying all of that is that they're pissed. It could be at their mom, could be at the government, could be at some feminist leader. And the point is that anger is quote unquote scaring men off. Now, I want to stop right there. It's not scaring men off. We're just not interested in being around a lady that's pissed, right? We don't need that kind of energy in our lives. We already got to deal with, building our own business, handling our own bills, doing all that. If we're going to get into a relationship, why do we get into a woman who's angry at us or angry at the world itself, right? We're not looking for that. And what we are looking for is probably someone who will be nice to us, will help support us, will help build us up in a way that makes us look better to the world, right? It's kind of like we're a team and I'm leading the team. And so she continues saying, men want to marry someone who is nice and that she's a mother of a 13-year-old boy. And the only thing her son wants out of life is macaroni and cheese, a video game, and Kim Kardashian. And then she makes a great point right after stating, have you ever seen Kim Kardashian angry? She says, I don't think so. What you have seen Kim Kardashian do is smile, shake her ass, and make a sex tape. And I'm not saying ladies do those things, but the point is that she's showing an example of someone who is successful, right? And at the time, I believe may have been on the upcoming of her success, and maybe at this time she might have been with Ray J. I don't remember. But from looking back now, she was with Kanye West, who was a huge celebrity and still is. And of course, they're not together now. But if women want to emulate Kim Kardashian, don't be angry, right? And she continues saying female anger terrifies men, and that she knows it seems unfair that you have to work around a man's fear and insecurity in order to get married. But actually, she's saying it's a perfect, because since you're working around a man's fear and insecurity, it's a big part of what you'll be doing as a wife. And I guess in a way, this is true, perhaps. I can only speak for myself, and I'll say in my earlier days, and I'm still relatively young, but in my earlier days, I definitely did have some insecurities and fears, and in my relationships, they would come across, not all the time, but when they did pop up, I would kind of get emotional around it, and the chick I was with would pick up on that. But now that's kind of changed. Any insecurity I have, I just try to I own it up and I work on it, and it doesn't become a security anymore. It becomes a strength. So in a sense, I guess she is right. But as men, we don't want to run away from our fears and insecurities. We want to run towards them, right? We want to build them up, make them stronger, develop them, and turn them into something that we don't even have to worry about. Okay, so now we're going on to number 2. Number 2 is you're shallow. And she says, when it comes to choosing a husband, only one thing really truly matters: character. So it stands to reason that a man's character should be at the top of the list of things you're looking for, right? But if you're not married, I already know it isn't. Because if you were looking for a man of character, you would have found one by now. Men of character are, by definition, willing to commit. Okay, I say this is true. If you're a man at the age where you're ready to get married, you already know what you want in life, and you set yourself up to be successful, then yeah. If a man is looking for a wife, and he's in the dating world and he's looking for one and finds one, he definitely will want to commit because he already knows what he's looking for and he found it in you, so he wants you to be his wife. And that does make sense. However, on the flip side, from a woman's perspective, a lot of women aren't looking for, if they are looking for a man to commit, in a sense, I believe they would have found them, just like he's saying. But I think a lot of women nowadays aren't looking for a man to commit, and instead are looking for certain types of men, right? Like someone who is tall or rich or handsome or has something going for them, right? Like that stereotype, the like that common phrase you see on dating apps. Oh, if you're not 6 feet or above, don't hit me up. That kind of thing. That's making you shallow. And being shallow in a woman isn't a good thing if you want to be in a relationship where you get married, right? So she continues saying that if you're shallow, then you have the thinking of a teenage girl, and men of character do not want to marry a teenage girl. And I believe that makes sense. It's just because teenage girls are never happy, they'll also never feel like cooking either. And she just brought up a very good point. If you aren't happy, you're not going to want to do the things that are required of you in a marriage as a wife, right? And one of those things is cooking. Other things could possibly be washing clothes or cleaning the house or maybe running errands or doing things for your husband or for your children or for yourself, right? And if you're not happy, that's going to come across in your body and your language, and it's going to telegraph to other people around you. So if you're not happy, no one's going to want to be with you, right? I think that makes sense. Okay, so number 3, and this is a big one. It's your slut. So she says, hooking up with some guy in a hot tub on a rooftop is fine for the ladies of Jersey Shore. But the ladies of Jersey Shore aren't trying to get married. But you are, which means, unfortunately, if you're having sex outside of a committed relationships, you have to stop that. Why? Because at past a certain point, casual sex is like recreational heroin. It doesn't stay recreational for long. And what she means by this is that men and women experience the outcome of sex very differently. Right? It's very easy for a man to just get the sex, the physical aspect, and not become emotionally attached. He can get in, get out, and he'll be fine. But for a woman, it's a little different. Right? And because the body can't distinguish between casual sex and, I suppose, sex within a marriage, the lady in question is going to become connected or attached to the person she had sex with. So you cannot be in a committed relationship if you're having sex with multiple people, because you'll be attached in some way, shape, or form to multiple people. And it's not going to lead to a successful marriage, right? So she's saying you have to start being way more selective now with who you have sex with. And even more importantly, to figure out why you're having sex with this person, right? You have to get your goals aligned with your actions. If you're having casual sex, you can't expect to be in a committed relationship. If you're not having casual sex and you're being very selective and you're only having sex with one person, then it's very, very more likely that you can and will be in a committed relationship with that one person. Of course, communication has to be involved, and both of you have to be on the same page. So the 4th one is you're a liar. And she starts off with, you meet a guy who's cute and likes you, but he's not really available for a relationship. He has some condition that absolutely precludes his availability, like he's married or he gets around town on a skateboard. Or maybe he just comes right out and says something cryptic and open to interpretation, like, I'm not really available for a relationship right now. And that if you tell him the truth, that you're ready for marriage, he will stop calling. And she says the problem with this is that ladies from experience have realized that if they come right out and tell a man who has said these things that he's not really interested in a relationship, or he's not interested in doing something that commits himself to one person, and you tell him, hey, I'm ready for a relationship, then he's not going to want to hang out with you. And you become a liar because you're into that guy. You want to be in a relationship with him, but you're not upfront with what you actually want, right? And so you lie and you say, oh, that's fine, because you only want to have sex for fun, right? You don't want to get into the relationship. You just want, to have a good time. And so she continues saying, and so you tell him how perfect this is because you only want to have sex for fun. But then about 10 minutes later, after you have the sex, says the oxytocin kicks in and you start wanting more. But of course, you don't tell him that, right? It's just a secret between you and your girlfriend. So now you're in a position where you want to have a serious relationship with a man, but you tell him you don't, but you're having casual sex with him. And from his perspective, everything is okay. But from yours, you're getting more and more attached. And now you're in a situation where you're going to wind up telling him the truth. And he's, well, probably just going to leave you because you weren't upfront to begin with. Right. So she continues saying you keep it a secret and instead you hang around having sex with him, waiting for him to figure out that he can't live without you. But unfortunately, he'll never figure this out. He already knows he can live without you just fine, and so do you, or you wouldn't be lying to him in the first place. All right, so that's the big dilemma. You now cannot, quote unquote, live without him because you are now attached to him, but it's nowhere near the same on the other side, right? On the man's perspective. So, number 5, you're selfish. If you're not married, chances are you think a lot about you. You think about your thighs and your outfits and your nasolabial folds. Wow. You think about your career, or if you don't have one, you think about doing yoga teacher training. Sometimes you think about how marrying a wealthy guy, or at least a guy with a really, really good job, will solve all your problems. And now she says, however, a good wife, even a halfway decent one, does not spend most of her day thinking about herself. She has too much shit to do, especially having kids. This is why you see a lot of celebrity women getting husbands after they adopt. The kids put the women on notice, saying, hey, hello, it's not all about you anymore. And after a year or two of thinking about someone other than herself, suddenly Brad Pitt or Harrison Ford comes along and decides to significantly other her. Which is also to say, if you really want is a baby, go get you one. Your husband will be along shortly. Motherhood has a way of weeding out the Lotharios. So to sum this one up, she is basically saying that teenage girl, that single life, that switch between you wanting to have fun and casual sex versus becoming in a relationship is a very key part about that transition. Is about your selfish level. If you're being selfish about yourself, more than likely you are not going to become a good wife. But on top of that, be in a great relationship. He says a wife, when they're married and they're in the relationship and having the family, quickly realize that it's not about them. And that's true. Most of the time, it's going to be about the kid, right? You have to raise those kids. You have to feed those kids. You have to bathe those kids, clothe the kids, take the kids to school. And then when you get a break from the kids, now you got to clean the house, organize the house, right? And depending on how busy the man is, right? If you're a stay-at-home mom, now you have to support your husband, wash his clothes, iron his clothes, cook for him. And a lot of the times, the lady is going to be put on back burner. But this is okay because you are serving your family. You're making sure that everything is in order. And that's a very important part. Number 6, you're not good enough. And she says that she doesn't think that. The issue is that you do. And she continues saying, I can tell because you're not looking for a partner who is your equal. No, you want someone better than you are. Better looking, better family, better job. And she says, this is what you really need to know. You are enough right this minute, period. She says, not understanding this is a major obstacle to getting married, since women who don't know their own worth make terrible wives. Why? Because you can fake it for a while, but ultimately you won't love your spouse any better than you love yourself. And smart men know this. I see this at my son's artsy progressive school. Of 183 kids, maybe 6 have moms who are as cute as you're trying to be. They're attractive, sure. They're not just objects. The husbands wisely chose them for their character, not their cup size. Alright, so that's the bad news. Before we continue, let's just take a moment and say, she has a point, but I also disagree with it. While yes, you are good enough in the extent that you were born with being able and capable of doing everything you need to do to be a great wife, but on the flip side, there's also a lot of things you still have to learn to be a good wife. And if you haven't learned that, you just, it's not that you still cannot get married. You'll just need to be caught up on it, Okay, like for example, to be good enough to get married, let's say you have to be on a 1, right? And every lady born is a 1. However, being a 1 doesn't make you a great wife, right? You're just able to be a wife. But now if you're a 1.5 or a 2, which is better than a 1, you'll be a wonderful wife, a great wife, right? it's kind of like the more experience you have of being a wife, the more better you'll be at being a wife versus someone with no experience. That's what I'm getting at. She continues saying, the good news is, I believe every woman who wants to can find a great partner. You just need to get rid of the idea that marriage will make you happy. It won't. And once that initial high wears off, you'll just be you, except with twice as much laundry. And she points out that marriage is not about getting something, it's about giving it. And that men understand this way more than the ladies do. Probably because for them, marriage involves sacrificing their most treasured possession. And she says it's the free agent penis. And for us, it's the culmination of a princess fantasy so universal it built Disneyland. She says the bottom line is that marriage is just a long term opportunity to practice loving someone even when they don't deserve it. Because most of the time, you're messy, you're farting, and your macaroni and cheese eating man will not be doing what you want him to do. But as you give him love anyway, because you have made up your mind to transform yourself into a person who is practicing being kind, deep, virtuous, truthful, giving, and most of all, accepting of your own dear self, you'll find that you'll experience the very thing you wanted all along. That's love. That's how she ends the article. So let's sum this back up. At the end of the day, she says, you're not married because you don't love yourself. And that's deep. Because you don't love yourself, you're a bitch. Because you don't love yourself, you're shallow. Because you don't love yourself, you're a slut. Because you don't love yourself, you're a liar. Because you don't love yourself, you're selfish. And because you don't love yourself, you're not good enough. So in the end, this goes for men and women. Love yourself. Do things that are good for you. And stop doing the things that are bad for you. There's no reason for it to be any other way. I understand there's hardships and there's trauma, there's strong emotions, there's obstacles in your way. I mean, it's life. But as much as you can, for as long as you can, practice doing things that are good for you and stop doing the things that are bad for you and love yourself. And when you love yourself, you will be good enough. When you love yourself, you won't be selfish. When you love yourself, you won't be a liar. When you love yourself, you won't be a slut. When you love yourself, you won't be shallow. And when you love yourself, you won't be a bitch. So I want to thank you guys for stopping by. If you feel that you have learned something in this video, please leave a comment down below. If you'd like to add to the list or perhaps think the list or one of the items on the list isn't good, please go ahead and leave a comment down below. I'm always happy to chat with you, and I'll see you next time. Peace.